Hey guys, what is going on? So I just wanted to let you know that I'm getting back on Sigma. This is the testosterone booster from Gorilla Mind. So I get a lot of questions about this and hopefully I can answer some in this video. But the reason I'm getting back on is because I already cycled off. I actually took a longer break than I was intending to just because I forgot about it. But basically when I started my cut, which was on the 11th, I decided to cycle off of that as well as Turkesterone. So at the time I was taking 6 caps of Turkesterone, 2 capsules of this. Now I'm still not taking Turkesterone, and that is just purely because I want to see what happens when I'm not on it. And I can talk about that in a second, but basically decided to get back on Sigma yesterday. I forgot to post about it. So this is just kind of entering into my kind of second phase of this kind of diet that I'm on. So I've been only dieting for what, 17 days now, which isn't all that long. I'm already down, let's see, my peak, I was like 263 to 265 was like the highest I ever weighed. I'm currently this morning 250.4 pounds. So quite a substantial amount of weight loss there. And I kind of decided, okay, that first 10 pounds, you know, obviously some of that is water. I have been in a very aggressive deficit as well. So I think a good amount of that is fat. This next phase that I'm in for the next kind of 10 pounds or so, I think is just going to be, you know, hopefully straight fat, or, you know, the vast majority of it being fat. And then that final stage of, you know, the last 10 pounds, because I'm looking to lose about 30 pounds, is probably going to be a little bit tougher. And I, you know, maybe at that point, I might start to, you know, bring Turkesterone back in and or Ecdysterone, depending on, you know, what I decide that I want. But basically, I figured I could get some extra benefit in terms of performance in the gym, in terms of potentially keeping my muscle and keeping my testosterone high, because as you cut the calories, your hormones are going to kind of get out of whack. Okay, so I figure that, you know, I'm just taking 2 capsules of this. I'm not trying to like get some crazy testosterone levels or anything like that. But I figure, you know, a lot of you guys are asking me, you know, what happens when you cycle off Turkesterone, less because you want to do that because you think it's like safer, and much more so it's very expensive to run Turkesterone. And so as opposed to like running it for a while and thinking you're going to lose all your gains, you're like, hey, you know, what's going to happen when you get off? You know, am I going to keep my gains? Is this something that I can take, you know, a couple times a year, and can those, you know, results stack up over time? And based on what I've heard from all of you guys, cycling off Turkesterone seems to, you know, basically you obviously don't get the benefits of being on it, but you do get to keep, you know, what you've earned. So I've said this many times before, I compare it to creatine, right? If you make gains on creatine and you stop taking it, of course you're going to lose the effect of being on creatine. But if you made gains over a long period of time, you're going to keep those gains that you earn. So that's what I've been hearing reinforced constantly, but I still get that question. And people always ask me, like, have I ever been off Turk? And so, yeah, you know, now I'm going on 3 weeks being off Turk. I very recently hit a 405 single, which, you know, a few months ago was my max. I hit it easier than I did back then. And I also was fasted. So it was actually like 8:30 at night, and I hadn't really eaten throughout the day because I kind of saved my calories towards the end of the day. And that day in particular, I just wasn't hungry. And so I was like, hey, let me see how long I can take this. And yeah, 405 just, you know, felt pretty good. So far, I don't think I'm losing anything from Turkesterone other than obviously the positive aspects of being on it, which, you know, in my experience is a little bit better strength for sure. Work capacity seems to be increased as well. And maybe that's just because I'm dieting that I don't have the same work capacity. But generally, my gym sessions are much more allocated towards cardio than weightlifting. Whereas before, I did no cardio because I was trying to bulk and I wanted to conserve every calorie that I could, right? So totally different kind of approach here. Strength training, building muscle, stuff like that. I don't expect to gain size or strength in my cuts. It's not really my goal either. My goal is to just lose fat as fast as possible and then get back on the bulking train. So again, first phase lost, you know, 10 plus pounds without Sigma. Now I'm like, okay, let me keep my hormones optimized and let me take 2 of these a day just to keep them kind of in an optimal range, hopefully. And then yeah, in that final phase, if I feel like I need Turkesterone, if I feel like I need Ecdysterone, whatever I want to do to kind of make that last phase a little bit easier. Again, I don't think I need these, but just, you know, I already have them. And, at that point, if I've been off for 4, 6 weeks, however long it is before I lose that next 10 pounds, which obviously that's a very ambitious rate of weight loss, which is just how I've been approaching this cut. But if I do get to that point, and I feel like, hey, I want these last 10 pounds to not be really hard. I want my gym performance to be there. I want to continue to, have my strength be high and everything like that. I might start, getting back on turkesterone, ectosterone. And then obviously when I start bulking again, I'm going to be using them because I think that's the best time to take advantage of, their benefits. And I've always kind of said, if you are trying to save money with turkesterone and ectosterone, like take them on a bulk because that's when you're going to get the most out of them. So that's very much something that I think this can kind of bridge that gap. If you think of turkesterone as being like on cycle, and if you think of this being like a PCT, I think that's probably a better way to look at it. In terms of Sigma, obviously is not going to give you that same level. Assuming you're a turkesterone or ectosterone responder, Sigma will probably not get you that same level of gains in the gym. But if you want something that is otherwise much cheaper. So this product, at the dose that I take, this is a 5-month supply. A turkesterone bottle, on the other hand, is, 10 days for me when I run 6 caps. So that is a massive difference in price. And, I'm not saying you should go and use Sigma, but I'm saying for those of you who, want something in between, you don't want to just completely get off turkesterone. And a lot of you guys have a much harder time cutting than I do. And maybe you're like, man, I hate going to the gym. I hate losing strength. Maybe Sigma can bridge that gap. Now, I'm not telling you how to utilize this. This is just how I'm personally seeing it as being something that can, be a much cheaper alternative. Because I do think that when people talk about cycling turkesterone, that is, purely because they want to save money. And as somebody like myself, who I don't have to worry about turkesterone because I have, the ability to get free turkesterone, it's not really an issue for me in terms of when should I cycle on and off. It's not really something I've had to think about. And I understand that people want to see, what happens when I go off it. So far, it seems like not only do I not feel any difference other than potentially work capacity, but this cut is going surprisingly well considering the calorie deficit that I'm in. So I'd actually expect to lose more strength purely because of the calorie deficit. So again, I think my theory of getting off and just keeping the gains that you earned in the same way that, I think getting off of creatine would yield kind of a similar result there. So yeah, this was my theory. I've had that reinforced by a lot of you guys who have obviously come off turkesterone probably multiple times. I don't think most people on my channel are like running this stuff year round. And yeah, that's been reinforced with the stuff that you guys have said. I personally think that makes logical sense to me. And based on my experience thus far, that kind of seems to be what's happening. So, obviously if I start to lose all my gains and I go back to like a 355 bench in the next few weeks, then I will take that back. But as of right now, my strength is pretty much at an all-time high, and even when I'm fasting. So you could argue that I've even kind of hit some new PRs in terms of 405, the way that it went up for me, especially considering the energy levels that I had that day. I consider that kind of its own PR because I'm doing it in a cut. I'm doing it at a lower body weight. And even though I first initially hit 405 at like 240 something as opposed to like 250, obviously different scenarios there. I've obviously added muscle since then. Okay, so that's what I'm doing in terms of Sigma. Back on that, turkesterone, I'm literally just going to wait until I feel like I could use the extra boost. If I never feel like I need it throughout this cut, I will just kind of stay off it and save it for the bulk. But I think, even if you're saving yourself a month off of turkesterone or 2 months or however long you cycle off, if you're saving money doing that, I think a cut is a good time to do it, to be honest, because, how much muscle or how much strength do you really plan to gain on a cut? Probably little to none, unless you're like, a beginner. And therefore, I think it makes the most sense to, if you have a finite amount of money that you want to spend on turkesterone, use it in a time period when you're in an anabolic environment, which is simply being in a calorie surplus. So I've said this many, many times. Obviously, people want to stay lean. I get that. It's easier, said by me, somebody who doesn't have an issue cutting and who likes to bulk in terms of making those extra gains. But you can look at my bulking example from the past 9 months and see how much lean mass I gained. And I basically had that philosophy of, bulking, being on Turkesterone and Turkesterone, taking advantage of that. And I think that's the way to go personally. So obviously do what you want with your own money, do what you want in terms of how long you bulk, how long you cut. But I'm hoping I can set an example for people who want to stay natural, for people who, you know, otherwise would want to stay shredded year round for Instagram and stuff like that. Hopefully I can be kind of a different voice that tells you like, hey, bulk for longer periods of time, try and get that cut out of the way quickly and just go back into a muscle building phase. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated and I'll talk to you soon.